Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swiz, here to talk dual position players. Gather round has finished. It's been an awesome round of footy. We're on to round 6, and that means we've had players who have gained a new status, a new position, 41 of them to be precise, and we will be discussing that. Before we get into that, as always, continue to support us on all our social media platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Soundcloud, and Twitter, Supercoach Insider 100 or Swiz26 for me directly. Now, the biggest question we do get asked is, how do I move a player that's gained an extra position into a new position or the position they've gained? So we're going to use Sheezel, for example, and he has picked up defensive status, move him into the defense. But how do we do that without using a trade? And that's the first thing we're going to cover today. So I'll go in. I'm going to use a midfielder, and the midfielder I'm going to use is Oscar Baker. Trade out him. Now, to do this, you're going to need somebody with a dual position in each line. So Wilmot's picked it up, or Chesser, in my defense. So I'm going to use them to start off with. Wilmot's going to go into my midfield. That now opens up that defensive spot. So that means I will be able to move Sheezel through substituting into the back line, where I want him into his new position. Now I'm going to I'm going to move then Davey into the forward line, and now I've got a midfield spot available right there. Now I'm going to go for somebody I could afford. This could be anybody really for now, but I'm going to use my man Richmond Steely Green, just because I know he's cheap and just would like to see him in my side just once. So I'm going to scroll down, find Steely Green, 117k, and I'm going to complete that trade. So now I've used one trade to do that. And you'll see now that we've completed that trade, Sheezel is in my back line. However, I said, how do we do this without completing a trade? And this is where the secret part goes now. We go trade Steely Green. Thank you for your service of my team. And we will now, so the player that I originally had was Oscar Baker. I'm going to filter that, go to the Western Bulldogs, scroll down until I find my man Oscar Baker, and there he is. Bring it in, complete that trade, confirm. Now we'll have my team come up as it wants to load up now in Supercoach. There he goes. That is my team loaded back up, and you will see there that Sheezel is in the back line. Oscar Baker is back into my side. We've moved Wilmot into the midfield, and Davies now going up to the forward line. And if you go up to the trades, you'll see 28 trades and all trades still available. So the way to do it there was I've traded out a player and then I trade them back in, but now I have Sheezel sitting in my defense. So that is how that is done without using a trade. Now, in regards to the players that have picked up dual position status, as I said, there's 41 of them. The most relevant Supercoach ones we've got is naturally Sheezel and Zeeble. Everybody should have Sheezel in their team. Zeeble, if you don't, definitely, as we've talked about, worth having in your side now that forward defender status. Some of the other interesting ones, Will Phillips, for those who did get on him, did cop a shoulder stinger on the weekend, but is performing quite well for North Melbourne. He has already gone up, I believe, 97Ks, but still has a break even of 7, so he's picked up forward status. Wilmot, which a lot of us own, will still adds to a bit more of his relevancy and will continue to stay in our side for a little bit longer because he now has picked up midfield status, which is handy for those who need that sort of loop. If you've still got to say a Chesser type. Who else we got there? The GWS boys, just unfortunately they haven't been performing as well, but Ash and Whitfield, both defensive midfielders. We've got Cam Rayner with defensive forward. Taylor Adams is an interesting one. More if Colin would get injuries later in the year. He now has forward mid status. Cam McKenzie, who's been very popular, did have that sub-game affected game, but if some people are maybe looking at holding him, he has now picked up forward status. A big one is Will Day. I know a lot of the top teams started him. He's still got one more week of that suspension to fulfill, but he is now a defensive midfielder. So one I'll be looking at possibly targeting the following week. Does seem to have a very good role in that Hawks midfield. Wanganeen Malira, as we spoke pre-season, was always going to pick up defensive status, good for those who have him in draft. The Doggies, Bailey Smith, mid forward. Now, Bailey's got a break even of 120 and is out injured, but there is something to look at when he comes back in, because we know he can score really heavily. So that is one of those premium types that we were hoping that would gain forward status at some point. So one to definitely watch there. Dawson has got midfield status. So a lot of people have him in defence, just got 152. You'd probably want to have him in defence, but that does give you some flexibility if you need to move him to the midfield. One to definitely consider. One, if you don't have, you might actually more be priced out of, but does open up some options. The Crows boys, Malira, Rochelle and Keys have all picked up dual position status, and they've all gained. Malira is a defensive forward, Rochelle is now forward mid, and so is Ben Keys. We saw how well Ben Keys did last year when he has the right role, 451k. Adelaide just have been more playing him up forward and a bit of giving opportunities to quite a few players through that midfield. One of them being Rochelle. He's made 95k so far, break even of 55, 382. One to continue to watch as he continues to develop. Malira's body has always been something I haven't been thrilled about, but he's did score 103 on the weekend, does have a break-even of 31, but probably more of a draft special. He's definitely sitting on a lot of waivers, so that's somebody good for your bench because he can now cover both lines. Ben's man, yes, the coffee man, Zorko. So far this year has gone 139, 68, 81, and 110, 461k. It's always his body, which is the issue. Naturally, an aging player there, but does have midfield forward status. A good one to look at this week is Roberts from Sydney, mid-forward now. Had those sub-affected games, but the big 93 on the weekend is a mid-forward, so somebody you can definitely look to bring into your forward line. Phillips and Meek are two, not for Supercoach, but classic, but draft relevancy if you have either Reeves or Draper, especially if you have Draper. Phillips is a great person to handcuff him to, and what I mean by that is if a player gets injured, or if Draper gets injured, you know Phillips is the number one ruck then at Essendon, so somebody... an easy one to kind of bring in there. Hunter Clark, if you have him, defensive midfielder now. So that some flexibility there. Most of the other players aren't Supercoach relevant, but you might have some of these others on draft in your draft sides, which could include Jaden Hunt, who's now defensive midfielder. You might have a Harry Cunningham for a defensive forward. And Cal Ward, who's now picked up midfield and forward. Well, he's now a midfield forward. So not just for classic, but a lot of relevancy, obviously, with a lot of these guys for draft. But yes, it's nice that some of these rookies that we have, in particular Wilmot and Roberts, that we are looking at, have picked up that dual position, which will give us more flexibility going forward. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Please shout out or throw in any questions. I'll be doing my record with no Thursday night game this week. I'll probably be coming on Friday morning to do my my record to talk about teams and any of the last minute questions that you guys do have. So send them in as you always do, and hopefully this video has helped so you can move your players around without burning trades. Take care, Supercoach community, and we will talk soon. Bye.